Thank you, Lord Jesus, for bringing us together this evening. Thank you for the warmth and sunshine. Thank you for all the speakers and presenters. Thank you for the volunteers and for Hope Valley Community Church. Thank you for Nick, who sits behind the scenes, yet does a fabulous job in keeping these meetings running smoothly. Let us unify as one mind this evening, Lord, recognizing not only your greatness, but the power that you have bestowed on us to work under your authority here on earth. Satan's goal is to get our eyes and hearts off of the Lord Jesus, to submit to Satan's wicked control. He does this through fear. So how do we fear? We fear losing our freedoms, our jobs, our wealth, our friendships, and our community status. We fear sickness. We fear ridicule and rejection. We fear for our children. We fear for our future and for future generations. The list can go on and on. But what does God say about fear? Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Psalm 34:4, I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Deuteronomy 31:6, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. John 14:27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Psalm 27:1, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Approximately 365 times in the Bible, we are told, fear not, be not afraid, worried, or dismayed. That's about one verse for each day of the year. So are you still living in fear? Have you stepped up and when and where no one else had the courage? Have you been working not only to expose the evil and corruption, but to put an end to it? Is God calling you to do more? If so, are you listening? Are you acting in faith? Are you still waiting for the proverbial shoe to drop as things get worse? In Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, he tells us we are the salt. So don't lose your saltiness and get trampled underfoot. He says we are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others with your good deeds, that you may bring glory to the Lord. Christ gave us power and authority over Satan and his minions, and they have no control over us when we use that power. Lord Jesus, search our hearts and minds. Direct us in the direction you want us to go. Convict us, Lord, to do all you ask of us. Remind us, Lord Jesus, not to live in fear. Remind us that no weapon formed against us will prosper. Let us be wise. Let us believe, truly believe with all of our hearts in the power of God, and give us the courage to use that power to defeat the evil of this world, so that in the end we may hear you say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Amen. And here's Doug.
So welcome everybody to our meeting tonight. I want to start with just a few housekeeping rules. So first of all, everybody turn their cell phones off if they haven't already. There'll be no video or audio recording. We do make an audio recording of every meeting, and it's on both our website, we send it out via email, and it's also on all social media channels of ours. We do have to vacate the building by 9 o'clock, but we have some time at the end tonight for questions for our guest speaker, as well as for you to mix and speak with one another. Once again, I'd like to thank our events committee for putting together tonight's meeting, and for putting together the events flyer that you all should have received. If you haven't, there's one on the back table, just outlining what it is that we are going to be doing in coming months. Last month, those of you who were with us saw that we were able to give away 4 scholarships this year to high school seniors who wrote essays about the Constitution. We gave 1 away in our first scholarship award last year, and thanks to you guys, we were able to give 4 away this year. We gave away 2 first prizes and 1 second prize. And Michelle just gave me a note from one of the winners. I want to read it to you real briefly. I'm gratefully honored to receive the Shield of Truth Network Award to use towards my college education. I will strive to do my very best at Lafayette College, just as I did in the Upper Perk, studying geology and continuing community service. Thank you so very much for your generous award. Sincerely, Owen Peluso, is it, Michelle? Peluso. And so that's what you guys are allowing us to do, one of many things. You're going to hear about a lot more of them tonight. tonight. If you guys aren't following us on social media, there's a QR code stand up back there. You can just scan the QR code and join us on all social media channels except TikTok, because we got kicked off. They don't like what we have to say. So we also have a lot of goodies back there, so feel free to take brochures, cards, yard signs. We appreciate that always. We also value your thoughts, so if you have any thoughts or suggestions for us, please mention it to one of us. Anyone in leadership at STN would be glad to listen to your suggestions, and we always take them under advisement, whatever the criticism or critique may be. So how many of you are here for the first time tonight? Keep your hands up for just 1 minute. I noticed we had a lot of new faces. So thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it always. We appreciate when those who are regulars bring friends and family. That's how we educate more. And as you know, that's one of our core values is education. How many of you learned of us through the Town and Country Ed? 1, 2, 3, technically, all right. How many learned through our emails about our speaker tonight or gained interest because of our emails? 1, from California, by the way. And how many saw our posts on social media? Has anybody seen our posting on social media? So a lot of the things that we said was about 4, I think. A lot of the things we send out on social media, we don't send via emails because it's just so much. So if you're not on the social media channels, please try to join us because you'll get a lot more information that way. Our website has been updated. We've done a lot of work and spent a lot on our website recently. So a lot of the things we have now made available to anyone. We used to have it locked down just for members, but our whole resource page now is open to anyone. So if you're a homeschooler, there's a ton of homeschooling information on our website, and a lot of other information we have on our website, what I always called our foolproof religious exemption letter for vaccinations that we got a lot of people through COVID with that. And actually people from Pfizer and Merck used it. Check out our upcoming events because they're always posted on our website as well. And let's see here. I want to stay on track because time is of the essence. We need to get our speakers up here. As you know, STN's backbone are our committees, and we have been truly blessed with leadership in each one of those committees. Individuals who have stepped forward to chair specific committees and serve in their respective area of interest and passion. I'd like to ask our committee chairs to take a moment to give us a brief update of their goals and plans for this coming year. Our newest committee chairman is Chris Donatelli, and he's been extremely active and engaged in working in our local school board, with our local school board. He's voiced the opinion of many at all of the recent school board meetings. He's written editorials that have been posted for the community to read. And he's also taken many of the slings and arrows that those out there have to hurl against him. And he's done that with dignity and a professional attitude. So I'd like to invite Chris to come up and give you a little insight as to what's going on and what he's been up to with his committee.
Good evening, everybody. I think in the couple months that I've been active with this group, we've made quite a bit of progress. Probably about 8-10 years ago, I was the school board director up at East Penn, and I belonged to a group called SEPTA. Never did we get to go on at a school board meeting what we've achieved here in the last 2 months. I've had these lovely ladies up front here showing up, and some other people here in the audience, plus other people that I've kind of been reaching out on Facebook and finding people that are local, and they're coming. Unfortunately, I'm the primary speaker at the school board meeting. Once in a while, there's another woman that comes and speaks on our side, but for most part, it's been me. I would love to have some other people show up and give their opinions to things to the school board and to the administration. But in the meantime, when I have spoken and when someone else has spoken, there has been an audience to clap and support us, and that has been wonderful because that is what they need to hear. So I encourage more of that. And as far as moving forward, I'm trying to get organized over the summer where things are kind of slow. I would like to get someone to volunteer to help me as a secretary, that I want to start trying to do meetings and take notes and have meeting notes published and then hand it to Doug and take care of Michelle, the things that she requires. So that would be anybody that wants to. Don't care. Someone has some time. That would be a great help to me. The other thing is, this last meeting I was attending to had to do with a tax increase. Something came up about Policy 103, which has to do with bullying in the school. And Trina, one of our school board directors, was getting kind of pushed and needled by the left school board directors. And at the end of the meeting, in public comment, a woman and her mother came up to speak about their daughter who had changed genders to a boy. She lost her husband, so the child doesn't have a father, has gotten bullied because he doesn't have a father, and was attacked by 3 young men. And to hear this mother up there crying, it was heartbreaking, and it was even worse for me because I went out to the parking lot, went to get in my car, and heard her crying and turned around and saw her sitting in the garden, and it was heartbreaking. If none of this woke stuff was going on in our schools, that child, in my opinion, would not have been attacked. So I'm doing whatever I can to point this stuff out at the school board meetings, but your help, your letters to the town and country, Facebook, there's a group, Conservative Upper Perk something on Facebook. Get active, speak your mind. Please be eloquent when you speak. Don't be like the left. We are trying to take the higher ground, and I appreciate everybody's help and support.
When you look at what we've been able to do, Chris came on after the school board election, but we had 5 school board candidates that we ran, 3 of whom got on, and we almost had 4, but then they counted the provisional absentee ballots. And so we have another election coming up in 2025, and there'll be 4 seats there that will be open. We plan on getting 3 to 4 on that school board so that they then, like-minded individuals, have the majority. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do it on the microphone now. So all we need is 2, Chris said. And, if we can get 3, it's a supermajority, right? So we're going to work hard on that, and we can use help on that. Scott Emmert put his heart and soul into that last election. He was chairman of actually, he was treasurer of the committee. Chairman doesn't do anything, just so you know. He was treasurer, and he did the bulk of the work on that election. And so we're planning on doing that again, and now with Chris's passion and energy, that'll help a great deal. Next, I would like to introduce our Second Amendment Committee Chairman, Gary Wolf, who's going to update us on what's going on with his committee. And then afterwards, I'm going to have Scott come up and speak a little bit about what's going on in the world of the next election relative to the State Legislative Committee.
Thanks, Doug. Good evening, everyone. Good to see so many smiling faces out here today, considering the temperature. Anyway, I'd like to introduce our 5th member of the Second Amendment Committee. She's sitting in the back. Rebecca, would you please stand up momentarily? This is Rebecca Martin. We asked a couple of months ago for a woman's point of view, and she jumped at it, so now we're going to get her take on things from how women see things relative to the Second Amendment. Now, one of the things we wanted to do this time around, especially in the summertime, is get back into some more training. We'd like to do some more live fire training, but we need help. Okay, while I can certainly guide people on the firing line, what I can't do is oversee everybody, especially if we have a large group of people signing up. So if there's anybody in the audience, including our own 2A members, that would like to become a range safety officer or an RSO, let me know, okay? USCCA has an online program to do that. The cost is minimal, but then you can help us out on the range, and you can oversee the newbies that are out there shooting for the first time. So that's the primary goal we're headed towards. Another thing we're working working on right now is we're deciding on the guns to offer for next year's gun raffle. I think we got a pretty good selection starting up, but it's not finalized, and it will be a committee vote on what gets included. But most important of what I wanted to talk to tonight was not so much about the plans that we have, but what we as committee members see in the environment and in our own communities and even in here. So how many times have you heard that when you're in a bar, there's two things you never talk about? Politics and religion, right? Okay, I know I did, okay, especially if I'm trying to hit on a woman when I was younger. My late father, he was a 40-year lifer at Bethlehem Steel. I loved him dearly, and he was my best friend, but he towed the company line. He towed the union line. He was a steel worker, a blue-collar worker. He just didn't want to get involved. Okay, and while I did love him dearly, he was the perfect Democratic stooge because he never questioned anything, but yet he bitched about his lot in life. So I didn't want to be that kind of person. So when I had time with him a little bit on our own in the car, driving places and stuff, I would pontificate my point of view on some things of a political nature or a legislative nature that I thought he would be beneficial to know about. So anyway, as it relates to our Second Amendment, this kind of complacency or burying your head in the sand is going to eventually erode the Second Amendment rights that you now enjoy. Okay. Right now, you may not know this, but there's an anti-assault weapon ban bill in force or up for the vote in the legislature in Colorado. Okay. This ban is not going to try to remove those scary AR and AKs, but it's also destined to remove anything of a semi-automatic nature, including shotguns and pistols. This is going to destroy those mom and pop shops whose main source of income is the sales of semi-automatic pistols for self-defense. Now, if there's 2,500 or more FFLs in Colorado, so when the public hearing on this matter came up, there were only 30 or so FFLs that actually showed up at the State House to voice their concerns. So you're talking about complacency to the max. It's even happening in the business sector itself, not let alone people like you and me. But if I owned a business that sold guns and that was my livelihood, and something was going to be voted on to destroy that livelihood, I sure as hell would take a day off from work and go to the State House and complain. So, but it's not just going to do taking away the semi-automatic guns. It's also designed to prohibit transfers. That means that when a Coloradan dies, they can no longer bequeath their family heirloom to younger generations. Okay, the guns will have to be destroyed. Okay, this bill is very dangerous because it is designed to sunset the Second Amendment in Colorado. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because why is it so important here in Pennsylvania to hear about a bill going on in Colorado? Okay, it's because the anti-gun movement here in Pennsylvania on the federal level is gridlocked. We have a slim Republican majority in the House. We have an anti-gun Senate leader who will never bring or pro-gun bills to the floor, and we have a mush for brains president who won't go signing any bills that doesn't strengthen his point of view. So right now the fight is happening in the State House, not at the federal level. Okay, anti-gun politicians from other blue states are taking these bills, such as what's being proposed in Colorado, stamping their state's name on it and reintroducing it in their own blue state. And therein lies the danger. Okay, you can't be complacent simply by moving to another state because it's going to follow you around, and because these types of anti-gunners are like termites. They'll destroy their state from within, and the only time you know about what they've done is after the damage is done and the structure is destroyed. Okay, meaning, in our case, your Second Amendment rights are gone. But that is too late. Except for the repeal of prohibition, have you ever seen the government give anything back to you that it took away? And the only reason prohibition was repealed is because the government was losing major dollars of tax revenue. It had nothing to do with them being good stewards. So, and I know that fighting the good fight is hard and it's tiring. It must be exacerbating for people like our special guest here tonight and his legions of supporters. Representatives from all the Pro-2A alphabet organizations are working very hard, doing a great job fighting the fight, but we must lend a hand because their numbers in Pennsylvania are small in comparison to the 5.2 million gun owners in this state. Imagine the impact of just 10% of us, or just only 500,000, berating our state legislators with our desire to squash these gun control bills. Politicians have one goal and one goal only: to get reelected. So if you get an email from places like GOA or some of the other alphabet organizations which ask you to contact a representative on a gun control bill, do it. It only takes less than 30 seconds. Organizations like GOA has already composed the email. All you need to do is add your name and your zip code to make it legit, and so it gets routed to the correct legislator. Imagine if the legislator staffers opened up their email in the morning and tell their boss, hey, we just received another 500 emails last night to vote no on gun control bill XYZ. Contacting representatives in volume does work, but we need to do it. So this is not, especially in this political year, this is not the time to sit back on our laurels. Take advantage of the opportunity and go after it. Grab it by the horns, as they say, and everybody chip in a little bit, and we might get some of these damn bills flushed. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. You know, STN will continue to fill a void that exists in government, the media, and yes, many churches today by sharing the truth. Now, our job is to shed truth and light. And to Chris's point earlier about this young person, I can't remember if it was a guy going to a girl going to a guy, what it was. But, you know, our job is to love them, but to lead them to the truth and the light. And, you know, that's a challenge sometimes for the other side to understand. They think that we hate them, and that's an unfortunate fallacy on their part. We'll also demonstrate to others how to engage in moving his mission forward in the numerous battles that we have ahead of us, and there are a lot. To that end, I'll remind you that we are fully dependent on your donations to fulfill our mission. And we thank those of you who feel led to support our efforts. I can assure you that your donations are being used judiciously and wisely. In fact, the 4 scholarships that STN was able to provide last month, as I said, to 4 deserving seniors would not have been possible without your financial support. So thank you as always. I will start tonight off with my donation, if I can find it here, Joe, buried in all the papers that I have sitting up here, and ask you to become part of the solution and not part of the problem. Those of you who read my President's message this month understand how important it is for us to engage. So please do your best to engage. It's not possible for everyone, I understand, due to physical or other limitations, but there are ways that you can engage even if it's not physically, and your donations are one of those ways. Our speaker tonight is a good friend and a individual who has worked hard for many, many years to support your Second Amendment rights. He's a retired colonel from the Air Force. He's also a medical doctor. And I'm going to ask Gary, our Second Amendment Committee chairman, to come up and introduce our guest speaker tonight for us, because I feel that's appropriate.
All right, thanks, Doug. This is a great honor for me to introduce our special guest tonight. For those of you who are regular attendees here, know that when I give my committee presentation every month, I generally talk about some type of pending Second Amendment legislation or bill that's being considered or something like that. And how many times have I told everybody that the fingerprints on that bill, particularly in the cases of filing injunctions and other things, have GOA all over it, okay? They are on the forefront of all this nonsense that's going on, both at the federal and at the state level. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Val Finnell, Executive Director of Gun Owners of America for Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go up use the podium. Very good, very good. How many of you watch Vikings on Netflix? I can see a few hands. I feel like yelling out "Shield Wall," you know? So, so I want to thank you all, thank the Shield of Truth Network for inviting me here to speak here again this evening. I think it's been 2 years, almost to the day. I can't tell you how exciting it is for me to have the opportunity to speak at different groups across Pennsylvania. It's a validation of the work GOA is doing in this state and nationally, and the support is broad across the conservative libertarian spectrum. The American spirit of free association and civic action is alive and well, even in the times in which we find ourselves. It's organizations like this and people like you which give me hope that we can turn our nation back around again to the principles upon which it was founded. So first, I'm going to give you a quick word about the court cases. You might have seen some of these. You're likely aware that the Supreme Court overturned the Trump-era bump stock ban. That was nothing more than the executive branch trying to make law without congressional authority. So that violates what? Article 1 of the Constitution. All legislative authority is within Congress. And what we're hoping is this ruling and the language in the ruling will be applied to the Biden pistol brace and unserialized firearms ban. So that if the reasoning stands, then we can overturn those two things. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court upheld the protection from abuse orders in the Rahimi case. Only Justice Thomas dissented. And this will likely embolden the calls for red flag gun confiscation orders across the country. And more about what's happened in PA later. I'll give you an update. So what's going on now in the Commonwealth? So since the last time we talked, the House did what? The House flipped to the Democrats, who now have a 102 to 101 majority. And that means in our state, whoever has the majority controls every committee and the floor agenda. So the Republicans couldn't bring anything up for a vote if they wanted to. The Democrats have to do that. So since the term began in January of 2023, the Democrats under the leadership of Joanna McClinton have run 5 anti-gun bills. 2 of them were narrowly defeated on the House floor, including mandatory reporting of lost and stolen firearms and a ban on binary triggers and bump stocks. 3 did pass the House and are now in the Senate Judiciary Committee. This includes red flag gun confiscation orders, universal background checks, we now call them universal registration checks, because it's a step on the way to registration of all guns. And also there was a ban on homemade firearms. So given the narrow majority of that 102 to 101, the only way these bills could pass is with Republican support. The only way. And sadly, because there's one pro-gun Democrat left, and sadly, 9 Republicans sided with anti-gun Democrats, 9, to pass red flags and universal background checks. And we had 2 or 3 defect on the ban on homemade firearms. And you know what? GOA held them accountable. And they don't like it. Isn't that something? They still expect us to think that they're pro-gun and they're for our rights when they vote against us. And they get mad at us. Don't you realize we're better than the Democrats? Yes, we're having a funny way of showing it. So you see there's some misconception among Republicans, especially the Republican leadership, okay, that somehow we are on Team R. Say, no, I'm sorry. My response is that we in GOA are not on Team R, we're not on Team D, no, we're on Team C, which is Team Constitution. That's the team we are on. Thank you. Discipline begins at home, my fellow patriots. You cannot claim you're pro-gun and expect to get a pass for bad votes. So we emailed these Republican traitors. We emailed their districts and revoked 2 endorsements. And you know what? When the binary trigger and bump stock ban came up on the floor for a vote, the entire Republican caucus voted against it, along with our friend, the pro-gun Democrat Frank Burns. As Senator Everett Dirksen said, when I feel the heat, I see the light. Okay, make no mistake about it. Other people will tell you something different. It's not true. What happens is if you hold them accountable, then they see the light. Then they toe the line. They understand that the only way it's going to stop is if they vote right. But that's not all. The Democrats, there are other bills. The Democrats have also reported bans on semi-automatic firearms and a ban on 3D printed firearms out of committee. And those have been laid on the table on the House floor, and they could come up for a vote at any time. So there's another risk, and that's to our youth's Second Amendment rights. And that is these mental health screening bills that are coming out now. Schlossberg's bill was just voted on yesterday. So look, I'm not against getting children or anyone else the assistance, honestly. No, I don't think anybody is. But these mental health bills could lead to more involuntary commitments. And if they do, your children could lose their Second Amendment rights permanently for something that happened when they were 14 or 15 years old. So the way our law is in Pennsylvania is if you have an involuntary commitment for a mental health issue, Section 302, it's a lifelong prohibition on owning firearms. And in other states, such as, I don't ever like to say it, New Jersey, if you have a voluntary commitment, you lose your rights forever. So We swung into action and wrote amendments for these bills. Unfortunately, they were voted down on partisan lines yesterday in committee, which we expect. Now, hopefully the Senate will block these and not bring them up. That's my understanding. But so this is the problem. So the idea is there's more mental health screening, and then more people referred for services. And if there's no way to expunge those records, kind of like a juvenile criminal record, if there's no way to expunge those records or have a pathway back, then those individuals would lose, those children would lose their Second Amendment rights forever if they were involuntary committed. Or if they had a voluntary commitment, decided to move to New Jersey or another state where that's a problem, then they could lose their rights there. So that leads me to talk about what is on everyone's mind, and that's elections, right? Again, so I'm going to focus on Pennsylvania, since it's kind of like my job. I'm the Pennsylvania director. So there's a real possibility we can flip the House back to the Republicans. But, and this is a big but, okay? We cannot do that by supporting anti-gun Southeast Pennsylvania Republicans or wherever else they might, all right? The establishment would love us for that and promise us the world when they get their majority back. Oh, we get the majority back, we'll do this. Oh, we get the majority back. We can't do anything because we don't have a majority. And then when they get the majority back, then the next thing they say is, oh, we can't do that. We'll lose our majority. Why did we send you there? Why did we elect you, right? It's like, it's amazing. And finally, when they do get their majority back, we have to kick them in the teeth for them to do anything. So like in 2021, we had to get them to really, really push the Republican leadership to get constitutional carry passed. And we did. We got it to the governor's desk. Unfortunately, he vetoed it. Now compare that attitude where we have to slug up a hill, attack the pillbox, take all these casualties to get them to do something, to the attitude the Democrats have in just a short amount of time they've been in power. They've run 5 anti-gun bills and there's more on deck. They just keep pushing them out. So no, we must be smart about who we support and in winnable districts. There's a lot of tilting at windmills. Good people who run for office. I met with a candidate a couple weeks ago. He's running in a district that's 16-20% more Democrats. I like the guy. We endorsed him. Probably isn't going to win. It's sad, but it's true. The good news is we've identified several districts in Pennsylvania that we can flip if we get solid pro-gun candidates. And we've identified it. So there's a real possibility we do it. Then, and only then, will GOA support those Republicans against the incumbent anti-gun Democrat. Libertarians ask me, why don't you just endorse us? Why don't you endorse us? Well, call me back when you get more than 3%. Have a nice day. I hate to say it, but it's true. I love libertarians. They're always with us, but they can't win. So we don't need more Martina Whites and Joe Hogans across the state. We just don't. This is the reason GOA engages in primaries. We want solid candidates to emerge and defeat the baby rhinos before they can sharpen their horns. Okay? So, you get the little baby rhino. No. We identify the baby rhinos, and if there's a choice in that primary, and if it's winnable, then we can go for ideological purity in a primary and take out the bad person. That's how we do it. And how do we achieve that? So to achieve this, GOA runs a state-level independent expenditure committee. I chair that. And it's also called a super PAC, okay? It's called like a super PAC on the federal level, but in the state, it's the same. So we decide what candidates we support, and then we spend the money to reach gun owners the best way possible. And that could be social media ads, radio, TV, advertising, whatever. So in 2022, we were able to shape many state house races, especially freshmen, and we're continuing to do so. It's redistricting is what really stalled our efforts. But that's another story. So it's going to be extremely difficult now to ever flip the House back because of redistricting. And I got worse news. So I predict the Senate will remain in Republican hands, but the Republican majority will be narrower. Right now, there are 28 Republicans and 22 Democrats. The best case scenario is that the Republicans lose 1 seat, and that's John DeSanto, which is District 15, Harrisburg, that area, Dauphin County. That would change the balance to 27 to 23. Other seats at risk include Devlin Robinson in Pittsburgh area, that's 37. Dan Laughlin up in Erie, that's 49. If both of those seats go, and they're being heavily targeted, it's 25-25. That's it. Even if the Republicans only lose 1 seat, gun owners will lose 2 because of the retirement of pro-gun Democratic Senator Jim Brewster. Likely, Nick Pisciatano, who's an anti-gun Democrat from the House, will win that race. So regardless, minimum, unless there's a miracle and Jen Tintini wins that race, we endorsed her, we'll lose 2 pro-gun seats. So while we're supporting that Republican candidate, again, redistricting, because part of Westmoreland County got taken out of that district, it's going to be much more difficult to win. So what's the message here for Shield of Truth Network? I said shield wall. It's time to attack, right? You've got to attack. Get involved and be engaged. And you're doing that. I can see what you're doing. So none of this can happen, what I've been mentioning, without your engagement and involvement. So GOA is all about mobilizing the grassroots to confront and hold elected officials accountable. Very simple. It's our members and supporters who are the true heroes in any success that we have. So how can you get involved and help us push pro-gun bills and fight the bad ones and get good people elected? The good news is that Gun Owners of America makes it easy for you to do. So your Second Amendment chair mentioned it. We keep you informed as to what is going on in Harrisburg and Washington, D.C. You can also find us on Facebook, if that's how you prefer to get your information. And we make it super easy for you to take action. Just click the button on your computer, your smartphone, you type your name and your address in, and you'll be able to send a letter to your legislators instantly. We have a table set up in the back. If you're interested, you can either get a new membership or renew your membership. We do discounts for these events. It's nice because we appreciate you inviting us out to speak. We really do. So can you imagine for a minute, vision, thousands of gun owners contacting their representatives to support pro-gun bills or oppose anti-gun bills? What do you think the result would be? Well, they get the message, wouldn't they? Just common sense, right? As Senator Everett Dirksen said, once again, when I feel the heat, I see the light. The biggest problem we have is motivating gun owners to take action. They just don't do it. Sad, it really is. And when they lose and complain, my first comment is, it's all your fault because you did nothing about it. Present company excluded, of course. But what can you do long term? That's short term. Remember, this is a long ball game. We always have to think years down the road. First, you need to vote. And in this group, I know that's not a problem. Elections must be taken seriously, and I just outlined what we're up against in Pennsylvania. We cannot be asleep at the switch. If you are not registered to vote, again, not a problem here, I don't think, then please do so, or update your registration. And don't just vote in presidential election years. Vote every year and in primaries. I can't tell you, when I chaired the Republican committee in Allegheny County, it was a local committee in Kennedy Township, and I would look at the voter rolls, and I would see how many people, they all vote in general elections, but not the Republicans didn't vote in the primaries. I'm like, come on, man, right? And that's a big problem. Vote in primaries, just like I said, that's how we keep the baby rhinos out. They grew up to be big rhinos. So last cycle, GOA assisted in removing 2 incumbents who voted for a red flag type bill in 2018. So yes, primaries are the time we do this, so that's when you need to get involved. And don't forget the off-year elections. Often this is when the next crop of candidates for higher offices are selected. So we need to weed them out in the municipal races or school board races or whatever. There's an aside here. There's 2 types of people that get into politics, generally speaking. There are the climbers, the people who want to get an office, go to the next office, this office, climb and put themselves in a high position. And there are people who, on the virtue to ambition scale, have more virtue. We're looking for the people who have more virtue. Right? Those are the people who want to be in office for the right reason. If someone is saying that if they're a climber, you can weed them out at this level. Talk to them, and people like to talk, like to run their mouth. They'll tell you, oh yeah, geez, after this, I was thinking about running for state representative, and then, I think there might be an opportunity later to be state senator or maybe even Congress. What do you think, Val? It's great. If somebody's running for the right reason, virtue, they want to make a change. They want to make a difference. And when you talk to those candidates, you'll be able to tell that. So that's why it's always good to talk to candidates and ask them the hard questions. You'll be able to weed them out really quick. But best time to do that, the cobra is easier to crush when it's still in its shell, when the baby cobra is in the shell, okay? So second, that's first, elections. Second, you have to make your voices heard in Harrisburg and D.C. by contacting your elected representatives. As I mentioned, GOA makes it easy for you to do that with our email alert system or social media. I cannot stress to you how many comments I hear in Harrisburg about the emails sent from GOA members. They are making a difference, and they get our bills moving, and they certainly help enormously to stall or defeat, in this case, we just defeated one, any anti-gun legislation. But for it to work, you have to sign up, get involved, and importantly, open and read your email. So let's make this a little interactive. So this big circle has 100%. 100% of emails. What percentage of emails do you think, not talking about sent, not talking about taken action on, but just opened? What percent out of 100% do you think on average open their email? On our list, What do you think? Throw out some numbers. How many? 7. Very good. You're close. Depending on the issue, it is between 7 and 14%. That's right. If it's not a hot issue and people don't, send it at the wrong time of the day, might be 7%. If you're doing 14, 20% in this industry, you're doing great. You're doing fantastic. What percentage of people do you think take action on the email? On our list, 2 to 3%. 2 to 3%. Wow. A lot of reasons for that. Email's dead. Okay, people, if they get too much of it, they don't read it, they ignore it. That's a big problem with it, okay? But if you're going to subscribe to our list, look out for our emails, open them, and more importantly, take action. So we have ways of getting around that. Sometimes we send the alert out 2 or 3 different times. We'll send it back to the people who didn't open it, and that really increases our engagement. So it all comes down to your willingness to engage each time those alerts are sent out. And it goes back to your being part of a grassroots army that we are building across Pennsylvania, and we have since 2019. We've grown dramatically. And we need you as a new recruit, if you're not already involved. Gun owners are waking up everywhere and refusing to let their rights be taken away. I just wish there were more of them. Are you with me on that? Are you committed today to get involved? Are you? Yes or no? Yeah? Oh, that's good. I'm glad. Great. I knew I could count on it. I did. I've been here before, so I knew. But, this is a great organization. It really is. I love what you're doing here. I wish there were organizations like this in every community in our state and around America. That's what's going to change things. It really is. Grassroots action and people taking action. People like you. So sign up today if you can. You can renew your membership. You can plug in the Facebook and on the social media. I've been trying like hell to get GOA to start doing text messages. What quiz, right? Another interactive thing. What percentage of people read their text messages? No, not GOA, but generally speaking. Number. Over 90. It's like 93, 94%. See, we got to use the technology the right way. So hopefully that's coming down the pike soon. So get involved, and together we can drive back the forces of socialism that will destroy our American birthright. So I'm going to leave you with this in conclusion. And I love this. Sometimes I use this quite a bit, and I love it. It's one of our founding fathers, Tench Cox, and he's from Pennsylvania. It was from Pennsylvania. This is what he said. The militia of these free commonwealths, entitled and accustomed to their arms, when compared with any possible army, must be tremendous and irresistible. Who are the militia? Are they not ourselves? Is it fear, then, that we shall turn our arms each man against his own bosom? Congress have no power to disarm the militia. Their swords and every other terrible implement of the soldier are the birthright of an American. The unlimited power of the sword is not in the hands of either the federal or state governments, but where I trust God, it will ever remain in the hands of the people. Thank you all. Keep fighting. God bless you. Thanks. Thanks. If there's questions, we can take some questions. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I'll just say I don't know.
When we
Hang on.
If guns were completely banned, what do you think would happen?
What would I think would happen? Well, I think you could look at what happened in Europe. I mean, there's going to be no roadblock to socialism, right? There's going to be no roadblock to totalitarianism. That's the whole point of the Second, right? And that's why they want to chip away at it all the time to end our constitutional rights. It's really about power. It's about power and control over people. It has nothing to do with these people.
It's all about the children.
It's not about the children, okay? That's their excuse for enacting their agenda. They know what their agenda is. They take the guns away, they have complete power, right? So that's what our founders tried to prevent. Yes, sir.
When we fill out our action alerts, and sometimes we can do it multiple times, are we actually hitting our elected officials multiple times?
Right. So you mean on our system? Right. So we try to avoid that. You can. It's not going to hurt anything. If you wanted to do it the second time, I would suggest you call or drop a personal note rather than using our automated system. So if we send it out and we get a bunch of people to respond, the next time I send it out, I ask Zeke, I tell him, I said, I only want to send it to the people who didn't open the email. So you shouldn't see it a second time. Not always, but you shouldn't see it a second time. But if you want to go back in and do it again, I would suggest for the second time or the third time, pick up the phone and call the district office, call Harrisburg, send a fax, craft a personal email, craft a letter, write a letter to the editor, do all those things next. But it's the numbers. It's a numbers game. And the reason why we make it easy is because we want thousands of those messages to come in. so that when I walk into the Capitol, when I sit in somebody's office, they don't see me, a lobbyist. Standard lobbyist goes in there and schmoozes politicians. I went to a traditional lobby school. The first thing they teach you is you must be liked at all cost. They must like you. I could care less if they like me. Okay? I don't care. Right? So when I go in there, what I want them to see is 50, 60,000 Pennsylvania voters, okay? That scares the living bejesus out of them, okay? That's what works. So that's why we make it easy for people to respond on the email system. But that said, that does not preclude you, and I would strongly encourage you to take more action yourself. Any other
questions? All good?
Anyone? Bueller?
I'm sorry, I've got one.
Awesome.
When you, being a member, and when you get the prompt and you send it, and then you get the computerized response from Madeline Dean, you just get the thank you very much for showing your concern, but we feel that. Does that still make it, it's still noted, obviously, if they had to do that, it's sent back, that's tallied that there's X amount of people?
Oh, yes, they tally. Believe me, they tally in Harrisburg. And I walked into offices, and, Senator Phillips Hill was my former senator before I moved. State senator, I'd go into her office, and we sent an email out about a particular issue. She turned to her chief of staff. What's the response been on that? And he had all the numbers right there. Absolutely, they do. But they will lie to you. I know it's hard to believe a politician would lie, but they will lie to you. And they will say,
Those automated messages don't do a thing. We know they're automated messages and we don't care.
That's what they'll say, right? They do, trust me. If they're keeping tallies and they know, hey, wait a minute, we got 800, 900 messages on this side and only 100 or 2 on the other, believe me, that pushes them where we want them to go. So that's why we want engagement to be high all the time. I know we always can't get it. Not everybody's interested, even among gun owners, they're not interested in the same issues to the same degree. It's harder maybe to get people let me just give you a general thing. It's just really sad, but you need to know this. It's harder to get people to email and contact their representatives about pro-gun legislation than it is about defeating anti-gun legislation. It's easier to motivate people for anti-gun bills, okay? It shouldn't be that way. So constitutional carry was an exception. It's been such a success in the rest of the United States with over half the country now constitutional carry. We had so much engagement on that. It was really great. When we sent it to the governor's desk, you wouldn't believe it. We had 7,000 people who sent the governor a message to sign it. I think it's pathetic because I know how many hunters there are in Pennsylvania, over 500,000. I know how many there's like millions of concealed carry permit holders, and we get 6,000? Really? Okay. But no, on the other side, it is good because normally we get maybe 1,000 or 2 when we send it to the governor, right? But so that issue was like 3-4 times, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 normally, like 3 times as many people. So we knew gun owners were engaged on that. But the hardest thing we have is getting people involved. It's not just elections, it's just getting them to care about their own rights. And then they'll complain when they lose them. And if they do, the message I have is, it's all your fault. It's your fault. It's not the legislature. It's not the Democrats. It's your fault. Yours, because you didn't get involved. It's your fault. Entirely. Yes.
Quick question. I get multiple emails from different groups that promote the same things that you're doing.
Okay.
One of the things that has been a concern is conflicts. One group wants this and another group doesn't want that. Is there a way to coordinate and really have a unified?
So what are you referring to specifically? Because I can't think of too many disagreements lately.
I don't have anything specific that I can identify, but National Gun Rights, Pennsylvania Gun Rights, fundraising organizations more than other things. And that is a concern to me that, if I'm sending my email back and is that just tracking? Just to track me and see how I'm a gun owner or is that really effective?
You mean email communication to your legislator?
Right.
Yes, it is effective because it's constituent mail, okay? Because when it goes in, it has your address on it, it has your name, it has your phone number on it. It goes to your legislator, whether it routes through us, whether it routes through National Association of Gun Rights, or Pennsylvania Firearms Association, any of them, or the NRA. It's the same thing. It's constituent mail. right? So we're pretty much in agreement with NAGR and PFA on everything I've said today. So there really hasn't been any conflict. We basically are pushing in the same direction. So now other groups have different strategies. We're confrontational and we're no compromise. And some groups, particularly the NRA, and there's another state group, they're more access-based, which means, remember I told you in lobby school, the first thing they tell you is to be liked. So sometimes they will give cover to incumbents and Republican legislators, instead of holding them accountable, because they think that that's going to, that'll maintain the majority and we'll be in a better position. Short term, that might work, but long term, it really doesn't. It leads to a steady erosion of your rights. And I always like to point at the great state of Florida, where there are Republican supermajorities. They have red flag gun confiscation orders, binary triggers and bump stocks are outlawed in Republican states. Okay, so it's not immune. So if you don't, sure, the Democrats are worse, but if you don't hold them accountable, and if you don't have them toe the line, they don't get the message, then they'll hide behind the other group. They're giving me cover, right? And so they'll attack us at GOA or PFA. Those are the two big ones who are confrontational. They'll say, you're the problem. No, sir, you are, right? You're the problem, okay? And so we're gonna consistently give it, and what they'll do is they'll try to get you to back off. They'll push, they'll threaten you. They'll say you're hurting your cause. They'll do all those things. But in the end, what happened? The entire caucus defeated that last bill I told you about, because we held them accountable. So we have a whole course that we teach, and I actually teach it. It's on confrontational politics, where we go through all of this. For your organization, it's applicable to not just gun rights, but it's applicable to all different areas of politics. So if you're interested, what I would suggest, talk among yourselves, I would be happy to do a full day confrontational politics presentation for you. I've done it up in Northeast PA, and I've done it in different contexts. It would really help your organization. I can tell from the way you're talking that you're kind of already doing that, right? But has anyone here taken our confrontational politics course? Or sometimes it's called Real Politics 101. You did? Where did you do it? Oh, you're giving me the sign that I've got 2 minutes. So the next thing is Doug comes over with the hook. Right, okay. So if you didn't, I'm happy to come back and do that. You'll love it, trust me. It's an eye-opener. So anything else before I go? Real quick.
I know you only got 2 minutes, but in a lot of states, and especially I just heard Tennessee, which really surprised me, they are putting out a list of medications that people are prescribed to that automatically put them on a list to not be able to buy a firearm. The medications on these lists are not antipsychotics. They are basic antidepressants and things used for many, many different uses. What is your experience in terms of this kind of legislation being passed? I can see like something of antipsychotic medication or medications that would impair your ability to handle or be responsible with a firearm, but it doesn't appear to be that being the case. What is your experience with that?
Well, I mean, there's nothing like medication, like any bills regarding medication in Pennsylvania right now. But what I would suspect is they're using the medication list to ID people who may potentially be disqualified, in their minds, disqualified people. And then they investigate more, right? Again, I don't know, I'd have to read the Tennessee bill, but just the whole mental health thing you have to be very careful about. That's the problem with mental health, again, with the screening bills or whatever, is if it increases more people into the pipeline and there's no way to get your rights back, if something happens one time in your life, especially when you're a kid, 14, 15, got committed one time and then you can't own a gun the rest of your life. That's severe. That's a cruel and unusual punishment in my opinion. So, anything else? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're great guys. Great audience. Thank you.
So there were two things that really kind of filtered through what Val said, and they are issues that STM was founded upon, one of which is unifying. So part of the reason that we started STN was to unify people because we were being divided and separated. And, in order to control people, you always divide them. That's the first thing that's done. The second thing that Val talked about was engagement. We can't get anything done if we don't engage. You can listen to all the podcasts you want. You can listen to the guys on both sides of the aisle that are getting people juiced up and riled up and making a lot of money doing it. But they're doing absolutely nothing to change the trajectory of whatever it is they're talking about. Organizations like GOA are changing the trajectory. We are changing trajectories with what we've done. But the only way we can do it is if you engage. If you don't engage and you just talk about it, you're doing absolutely nothing. So we need your engagement, and that's one of the most important things, and we need unity. That's the other thing. Scott Emmert, our state legislative chair, has done some pretty amazing things with his committee and the commitment of the individuals on that committee. He is working with a group right now to see if we can use some of the techniques and tactics that the other side is using relative to mail-in ballots and other things to confront what they did last time around. And Scott has a great deal of knowledge about it, so I'm going to ask him to come up and enlighten us about that as well before we finish up tonight.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks for letting me follow Val, too. I'm not sure I can be as encouraging as he has been. We have a few different topics. No problem, but hopefully if I'm not as engaging as Val, I do want you to know that a couple things I'm going to talk about tonight are just as critical. And I think the one thing that Doug has always focused on for this organization is having actions we can take. And so there's two things. One came up, Doug actually is on vacation this week, I think he mentioned, and he actually called me this morning to tell me about one thing that we need to consider very kind of urgently because it's occurring on Thursday. And that's, there's a Board of Commissioners meeting on Thursday. After the Board of Commissioners meeting is a salary board meeting. After that is a Board of Elections meeting. And that's the most critical thing that we need to focus on. We're going into the general election here in November. And one thing that statewide organizations have been trying to get Pennsylvania to go to a hand count for the votes in the general election in 2024. Every county decides for themselves how they're going to handle the elections based on election law. It's totally legal to do hand counts. The challenge that we have is, you're probably aware, we have 3 commissioners, 2 of which are Democrat. One is Tom DeBello. Tom DeBello's come to our meetings a couple times. We've hosted him a couple times. He needs our help as citizens to either attend in person or attend virtually. So you have a range of options here for how you can participate in the meeting. But starting at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, there's going to be a board meeting. That runs generally till 12. Then there's a salary board meeting, and then there is a Board of Elections meeting. Not sure exactly what time that will start, but I believe he's going to bring up that hand count and try to get them to adopt a hand count here in the Montgomery County, which would be absolutely awesome. So anything we can do to show support from that or for that, so you can join in person. It's down at 425 Swede Street down in Norristown. You have to be a citizen or person living in Montgomery County to attend, but you can attend in person there. You can attend virtually by either Zoom or streaming, live stream or social media sites. The only way you can participate public comments is either attend in person or attend the Zoom meeting. The Zoom meeting you have to register or pre-register for. I have a couple documents in the back with QR codes that you can scan, and it gives you the specific information for where to go to register for the Zoom, where to go to attend the meeting, or where to go to pick up one of the live streams. You can also submit public comments by email or by hand mail. So you have 4 different ways you can talk or communicate with the commissioners. And the more, as Val said, the more times they hear support for hand counting, the better chances they are that they would consider it and pass that. The other project, which is a bigger project and a longer term, someone reached out to Doug and mentioned a program called PA Chase. And it's actually something that we had been talking about, is looking at low propensity voters. And the whole concept is we need to get more people to participate in elections. The Democrats have been doing this for years through a variety of methods. And so Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, I don't know if you're aware of him, has been preaching and preaching and preaching to do this, and he's engaged his organization in most of the swing states. He turned that activity over to a group in Pennsylvania called Citizens Alliance for PA. And so they essentially are working with Turning Point. They're getting support from Turning Point. They're getting tools and resources from Turning Point. And one of the representatives reached out to us to see if we'd like to be involved with them. And the thing that we can do through that program is they have an app that they'll identify low propensity voters, and all we want to do is engage them. Usually that involves door knocking. And I know when I say that, it kind of sends chills up people's spines. I hadn't done it before, and I did it this past year, and it was absolutely delightful. I met a lot of wonderful people. So this app will identify people, knock on their door, and try to encourage them to participate in voting. The second half of that program, the chase part, is because the feeling is that people aren't coming out to vote because they don't want to come to a precinct, is to engage them around mail-in voting. I know I am not a fan of mail-in voting, but in this particular instance, if it will get somebody to participate and it's a good, solid Republican vote, then I think it's only good that we would try to engage these people any way we can. So, and working with Turning Point, they've set up a mechanism to be able to track the status of all the ballots every 24 hours. So they're going to know if you engage somebody and they request a mail-in ballot, they're going to know whether they got it, and they're going to know whether they returned it. And so that person is somebody that you can reach out to multiple times to try to get them to return the ballot. It's been used very successfully by the Democrats. There's a big push in all the swing states, and so we got a rare opportunity to join in this process. So I hope you'll consider it. There's no experience necessary. We'll provide all the training. The gentleman that's responsible for Eastern Pennsylvania is glad to meet with us at any point in time. What they do is identify 15 people in your immediate vicinity. So the app itself uses GPS to know where you are, and it'll tell you 15 people around you that are not currently haven't voted very frequently. So what I'm looking to do is see if we can get some people to participate. We kind of focus on the 10 precincts that make up our school board, our school district, and that's what we did in the congressional race, and we were very, very successful in that campaign. And so I think we can be very, very successful here. So again, you can do as much or as little as you like. We'll take any help. I'm going to pass around a handout that you can sign up. Just provide contact information, and I'll get in touch with you, and I'll walk you through the process, and we can go from there. Love to see anybody. If you have friends or family that'd be interested in doing it, please pass a word and see if we can get them engaged. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Scott has done some amazing work and obviously continues to do so. And, I really feel blessed for a lot of the people who have become part of the engagement and the change that STN is involved. I also want to be thankful for a lot of other folks here. Peter Smith allowed us to use his facility when we started, and that was something. We have two pastors in our community who are extremely supportive of STN. Those of you who had been to our rallies know that we held those at Morning Star Fellowship Church in Pennsburg as well. These gentlemen and their congregations have stepped out to be supportive of what we do, and we truly appreciate that. I wanted to share something too. relative to explaining the truth to people who are not engaged, who do not understand the history of a lot of things, but one in particular. I received a letter early on from an individual who was complaining, I guess, about STN's support for Second Amendment values, and she used the normal rhetorical comment that, there's no purpose for us to have an AR-15. It's a military firearm. We shouldn't have equal firearms to what the military has. So I thought quite a bit about her comments, and, I've studied, firearm history and firearms for the majority of my life. And I wrote back to her and I explained to her that, and this will be germane to our speaker next month, the militia and the patriots in the Revolutionary War used a specific firearm that was actually developed here in Pennsylvania, and it was a rifled musket. The British had smoothbore muskets. A rifled musket was actually superior to the smoothbore musket relative to its accuracy, the distance it could fire, in comparison to a smoothbore musket. So my point to her was that in the Revolutionary War, the individuals fighting on our side for the colonies actually had superior firearms to those being used by the British. I never received a response to her on that, but sometimes using logic and truth and facts diffuses the argument on the other side because they really don't have them. So tonight we've had another great speaker and another great presentation, multiple presentations that SDN's been able to bring to you. I'd like to thank Val for his tireless work to further our Second Amendment rights. Val and the GOA are stalwarts in the battles that rage against our freedom to keep and bear arms as enumerated in our Constitution. And you guys know that's our second core value, is our constitutional framework. But more importantly, the question is, what will you do with the information presented tonight by Val and all the other information that we bring to you, like what Scott just brought to you? In our mission here at STN, educate those who want to join us in the many battles that we fight each and every day. So what are you going to take away and actually engage with? You could take the information, as some do, and just go home and continue living your comfortable and peaceful life. However, I assure you that those opposing our biblical and constitutional values will not relent. And there will come a time when the continuous tightening of the screws on the freedoms that we all value will fall directly on your doorstep and affect that comfortable and tranquil life that you have sheltered yourself in. Looking back on my brief time that I've walked this earth, I can tell you that I've witnessed many of those freedoms being stripped away. Slowly and insidiously, usually, but progressively, just the same. This is a process that is used to indoctrinate us, to get us comfortable with the change. As my father told me many years ago, they get a foot. See, I'm dressed like this not because I retired, okay? I'm dressed like this because I'm on vacation, and my two brothers are here with me tonight. One from California and one from North Carolina. So, again, my thoughts here. What my father said to us is that they get a foot in the door and gradually force that door open a little at a time until ultimately it's swung wide open. And this is a process that's being used against us right now. My president's message this month, for those of you who had an opportunity to read it, was about becoming part of our team. My intent with starting STN over 3 years ago was to unite like-minded individuals to fight the evil that we are called to fight. We have done so many times and defeated the opposition. Our past and future school board elections, the Mark Houck election, are examples of how our teams prevailed. STN is not just a political organization. I want to be very clear on that. There are many of those out there. That's one of our fights, one of our battles. But what are the battles that we have ahead, you might ask? We need to continue to wage the war for a conservatively minded school board candidates to step up, and that's a challenge. And Peter, I'm going to have a chat with you about what you did last time to aid in that. We need to educate the public about the evils of infanticide and abortion. and not only educating, but engaging those individuals to make the change. The Second Amendment assaults need to be overcome. So engaging in teams to move the ball in favor of our constitutional freedom to keep and bear arms is critical. But how? Well, one thing, we have to join together, and that's why Val's here tonight. You have to join us in one of our teams and get others engaged to overthrow the multiple bills that are on the horizon. And there are plenty of them. And again, we oftentimes see information coming out about bills. Just because there's a bill that's put forward doesn't mean anything necessarily. And you'll see this oftentimes used to gain financial support by different organizations. Now, that bill has to go through, be introduced, it has to have co-sponsors, then it has to go to committee in the House, then it has to come out of committee, then it has to be voted on. If it's voted on, then it goes to the Senate, goes back into committee. There's a whole process that it has to go through. Now, we want to see these bills defeated, but we don't want to spin our wheels on something that's never going to grow into something of consequence. We want to be able to kill those things that are going to move and become issues for us. So it's important that we have organizations that can ferret that information out for us and help us to make sure that we're not just wasting energy and manpower on things that are not necessary. How about joining one of our teams to make an impact on human and sex trafficking? We've had multiple speakers up here talking about that. Most people don't realize that Pennsylvania is the number 4 highest state for sex trafficking. And with the border wide open right now, the cartels are sending all kinds of kids over here, and that's exactly where they're going. Our biblical calling is to do the work that we need to do in order to fight the battles which are being created in the spiritual realm and playing out in the worldly fashion. As we're told in Ephesians 6:16, our STN shield is there to remind us that the shield of faith can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one. So to Michelle's point with her prayer as we started, we can't be fearful. They're not fearful. They're unified. The reason that we have been ununified, in my opinion, is because we're individual thinkers. They are not. Just like Gary was saying with his dad. He followed along like a sheep because he was in the Union. We don't do that. We think individually, but we need to unite on specific issues and topics. STN has taken many flaming darts in the past 3 years. The name calling and labeling that Chris spoke of, and the false accusations, and oh yes, the deceivers as well. We've had our share of those. But we have and will practice what we are taught in our first core value, our biblical foundation, to lean on the strength of the Lord and continue to fight the battles. We will always take the high road, and thank you, Chris, for emphasizing that, because that's critical, that we take the high road. They're going to get in the dirt and the mud. We let them do that. We stay above it. Will not engage in lowly tactics being used to defame us and to minimize our impact. The only reason they're attacking us is because we are having impact. No one will fight. No, we'll continue to fight on. I ask only that you engage. Join our teams and our efforts, and you can become part of the cause, not just to educate others, but to make an impactful difference. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I truly appreciate it. I know we all truly appreciate it. I ask you next month to come back, to bring friends, to bring family, to tell others. You know, we've been going around to different places. Take a yard sign. Joe's holding them up. We're seeing them all over the place now, and I'm happy to say that. People aren't afraid to put them up any longer. We've been going a lot of places together. They don't have antiques in California. California is too new to have nice antiques like we do. So we went to a couple antique shops, and there was a woman in one that my brother's engaged with, and started talking to him about STN. And she said, well, I want to learn more. I want to know about that. So people want to know, but they're not going to know if we don't tell them and we don't engage with them. So please do that. I'm going to tell each one of you that I hope that you have safe travels not only tonight, but this week, and we look forward to seeing you at our next monthly meeting, where we're going to celebrate, you ready for this one? We're going to celebrate Independence Month, not Independence Day. See, I figure if they can do their month in June, we can do our month in July. So we're going to do Independence Month. With our living history speaker, he's going to be in full uniform. He's going to have his musket and all his accoutrements, and he's going to be in persona and he's going to speak to us regarding his life as a soldier in the American Revolution. He's an amazing guy. He's unbelievably knowledgeable about the era and the period. So I ask you to bring friends to our Independence Month celebration, and I'll see you there next month along with all your family and friends, I hope. So thank you again tonight for coming out, and safe travels home. And please go back and visit Val and become part of the solution. He's a great guy. And I know Val is not a hard sell on anything, but I can tell you that Val and I got together at the Oaks Gun Show a couple of years ago, and Val was having trouble signing people up. And I said, well, watch this. So I took a couple Constitution pamphlets that he had there, and I held them up to guys, and I said, Second Amendment pamphlets. They said, do you know what this is? They're just walking by. And I said, yeah. And they said, yeah. And I said, do you know who's protecting it? And they said, no. I said, these guys are. Why don't you go talk to them? I think he signed 3 people up after we did that. So go talk to them.